They knocked twice, Tony, and now they want fantasy advice.
The Warzone Sports Network presents the Fantasy Football Speakeasy. Stay tuned and never miss out.
MJT Football presents the Fantasy Football Speakeasy. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I don't know if you guys remember from last year, if you were tuned in last year during our fantasy football talk. Every Saturday morning, we release an episode with a new list. We would do wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks. Today's list, we're giving our top 5 sleepers. So draft picks after round 7. I think our ADP number we picked was 84, which is the end of the 7th round, I believe, right? Or is the end of the 8th round?
That's like, it's the end of the 7th, but you said to include the 7th round.
Yeah, around that area and back. So, your bench pieces, and we're going to give our top 5 picks after that round at the end of the show. We're going to talk about these running back ones and some of their drama as well at the beginning of the show. But first, let me introduce to you my co-hosts, the J and the T in MJT, Joe Morley, Tony Tucker. Joe, how are you doing? We had some technical difficulties before the show, but they're all solved. Other than the ugly colors you're wearing today, are you having a decent day at least?
Las Baños Tire Shop in the house saying Raiders. I know you like that, Mike, but I'm doing great. We're only, 54 days away from the start of the NFL season, and me dominating fantasy football once again and claiming another belt. Tony, are you with the belt or a ring? So you guys know all your fantasy advice comes through me right here, the champ. Everything you need to know about fantasy football. I'm probably the best fantasy football player ever. I'm self-proclaimed, right? As I should say that.
Self-proclaimed.
So I'm feeling good, ready to go on this Saturday morning. But that video right there, the beginning, it made me feel like I was watching like some I Love Lucy episodes from back in the day or something.
Here's my ring right here, Joe, right between my 2 fingers. Tony, how are you doing?
Everything's great. Having a great summer of golf. Back playing golf again, loving it. Can't get enough of that. Los Baños. That is the accurate location of where the Raiders are and where their season will be. Right there.
That's Mark Davis. That's Mark Davis's burner account. Joining
Harrison going back to get his education. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
A sports statistician. Maybe me and you could be coworkers one day, Harrison. Just saying, we could be coworkers, work for PFF together.
Yeah, that's just what I need. More number nerds telling me this guy's better than this guy. Really? Because I'm watching it and he doesn't look better.
I'll probably like Harrison a lot more than Mike, though.
Wow. You guys could just replace me. You could call this HJT. Harrison, Joe, and Tony Football.
That HJT sounds like it has a lot of dirty connotations to it.
Yeah, or it sounds like it might be like a abbreviation for some kind of like plumbing part or something.
What's up with all the Raider fans showing up here today?
Joe sent the link to his group chat.
Oh.
MC Raider in the house. What's up, Raiders? MC, Mike, we need to get him. We need to have a show with MC. You guys are always hating on Raiders, but it's just good to have. Like I always go on live and people are like, "Oh, you're a Raider fan. You talk all this crap." Just talking football alone, no matter who your team is fun, right? And that's the main point together. Is just to talk and have a great time. Charger fans try to always bring Raider fans down. Raider fans trying to bring everybody else up.
Oh, yeah. All the time. That's them right there. Anyways, enough with this madness. If you guys are tuned into the audio version of the show, please head to YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces and subscribe to the channel. If you are watching on YouTube, of course, subscribe. But more importantly, MC, Harrison, Los Baños Tire Shop, Steven, whoever else is here in the chat right now, turn on those notifications so that you can be here next time we go live. And also, like the video, that helps out a ton of the algorithm. Let's get into this show. First, we're going to talk about these running backs and some of the situations, starting with Joe's favorite fantasy player, Joe Mixon. And we're thinking in the form of Fantasy Outlook here, but Joe Mixon apparently has restructured his deal and is intending to stay with the Cincinnati Bengals. A quote that came out from Mixon is that he values championships more than money. I think that's more so he's not getting the offers, but he values winning a ring more than he does that mega running back contract that we're seeing running backs have a hard time getting recently. Tony, Joe Mixon staying in Cincy, are you in or out? I don't think that this changes very much as far as his outlook. If he was playing, we kind of expected Joe Mixon to be similar to what he was last year.
This actually makes me like drafting Joe Mixon a lot better, especially if he's going to continue to go late second round, third round, where he's been at some of these mock drafts. I think from a football standpoint, it's really great. I didn't look at the details of what the restructure was because I think that will sort of kind of tells you what the market's going to be for those guys that are in their second contract. Like, what does Eckler's situation look like after this? Because I'm personally holding on to hope that the Chargers and Eckler will all come to their right senses at the end of the season and realize that there's not a better option for winning and more money out there somewhere else. And he'll stick around for $6, $7, $8 million, whatever the agreed upon number is, for at least another season after this. But this is good for the Bengals. The team is loaded. I keep wanting to put the Bengals out of the playoffs. I keep putting them at the third spot, and then I'm like, that's stupid. Why would you do this? You're going to say this into a microphone that you think the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs? Yeah,
you guys heard it right there. Tony said the Bengals are missing the playoffs. That's how we edit stuff like that, Tony. You just got to edit like that.
The Browns are going in over the Bengals.
Maybe we'll see.
See, we already got him thinking about it. Joe,
2 years ago, the Browns were going to the Super Bowl according to Tony.
Yeah, with Baker Mayfield.
Huh? Why we always talking about old shit?
Anyways, Joe, just go ahead and roast Joe Mixon real quick.
No, I was talking about this last night. I think Joe Mixon restructuring his contract hurts all these other running backs that are franchise tagged or going for anything else that want the more money. He's showing you the running back money's not there. And Joe Mixon, of what he's done the last couple of seasons, and for him to go and take this pay cut, I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at what did we show last year, Tony, the Super Bowls, the last 25 running backs to win the Super Bowl, none of them have been made more than $2 or $3 million in those years. So running backs aren't, they are great for your team, but they're not the X for your offense to go win a Super Bowl. So Joe Mixon is the smart man. He knows the Bengals have a pretty damn good team, and he doesn't want to leave that team because he'll have to go to some other team that's not as great and be a backup there. So why not continue to be the starter, make a little bit less money, but win games? Joe Mixon hurt the running back market by doing this, but he did a great thing for himself.
Yeah, I mean, the move itself for Joe Mixon's outlook in his career, I agree with that. He's definitely making the smart move. I mean, the trade market has not been very beneficial to these backs. I think if he would have fought the Bengals for this deal and drug this out into the season, he just would have never got it. He would have never got it, and the Bengals would have moved on by getting another running back next year or moving on to some of the young guys they got behind him. As far as fantasy outlook goes, I think that this does mean, you're going to get Joe Mixon in there. Last year, he saw a lot of targets, and he had a lot of high reception count for running backs in this offense. He stays in the field when they throw the ball, when they run the ball, in all situations. So if you like Joe Mixon, go get you some of Joe Mixon. I personally am avoiding him because last year he had that one massive game that inflated his totals. When you take out that game, he kind of had similar production to Kenneth Walker, which was still good. He had similar production to Dameon Pierce, which is still good, but those guys are coming out of the draft way later than him. So I'm probably going to go those guys over him when I'm talking fantasy football, but it's a good move for Mixon overall. Let us know in the chat what you guys think about Mixon. Tony, go ahead.
I just want to say this real quick. There's no more good guy bump. There used to be a good guy. Like if you were a running back or any player and you were like a good community member and stayed out of trouble and everything, you would get paid. They'd work out a deal for you. But now, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not like Eckler or Jacobs or Pollard or Barkley. These guys aren't getting anything. Like, it doesn't matter what you are. So you don't even get the bad guy demotion. Not to say Mixon's a bad guy, but he's had some trouble with the law, right? And it's like, but it doesn't matter. We'll still work it out, and he'll still be on the roster. regardless of what it is. It's not like the Saints aren't looking at moving away from Kamara, and he's got a situation too.
And you guys already know Joe Mixon's on my no fantasy trade or no fantasy draft block, so I don't draft him.
The do not touch list. That's prior experience, right? This year, I mean, it's tough. It's tough because he has potential, obviously, to be an RB1 any given week just because of his opportunity.
Who Mixon does?
Yeah, Mixon.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of manage where you can get him and if there's a value there or not. Speaking of Saquon Barkley, his situation kind of shocks me the most because it's not necessarily that I think he's a ton better than Josh Jacobs and he deserves the contract way more, or a ton better than Austin Eckler or any of these other running backs trying to get a contract. I just feel like he's not only the heart and soul of that team, he's the face of the franchise. I mean, not in very many locations anymore is the running back the face of the franchise. Maybe Tennessee, obviously here in New York. But in those situations, you'd think that the franchise would be more willing, especially Saquon's only 27, 26. Everyone acts like he's 30 years old already. He's got another contract of good play left in him. You'd think the Giants would want Saquon on board for both the business side and the on-the-field side. And I think without him on both aspects, they're going to be kind of doomed this season. So they got to figure something out. But, Tony, I'll let you go first. What's your thoughts on the Saquon Barkley situation? I believe we have till Monday afternoon, and he's officially in a holdout.
So I would also make the argument that Bijan is the face of the Falcons. In that situation, like I think they're putting him in Vic's jersey, right? They're putting him in 7. Yeah, and so like not a lot of people have worn that. Young Wei Koo and Michael Vick are the prominent, or Young Hoku, I don't know what his name is, the kicker. As far as Barkley goes, they got to get this done. Like, I think Brian Daboll's a really good coach, and I hope that there's not some sort of arrogance thinking, well, I didn't have a running back in Buffalo, and things were successful. You didn't have a running back in Buffalo, but you did have Josh Allen. And as much as I try to prop up Daniel Jones on this show, and I do think that Daniel Jones can be good and play winning football in the league, right? He's dedicated. He's more athletic than people want to give him credit for, but he needs Barkley. He needs that dynamic playmaker out of the backfield, because if they can, they don't have to worry about that, and they can speed up his decision-making time, we're going to be seeing a lot of dimes, turnovers, like real bad. A lot of loose chains on the ground. Just take a roll of dimes and smash them on the ground every game.
Yeah, Saquon's such a good safety blanket, man, to get the ball to. But go ahead, Joe.
You guys don't have any belief in Matt Breida being the number one guy in?
I didn't even know he was there. I was thinking Brightwell or somebody. Like, I forgot who.
Honestly, was. There's a sneaky kid. He's a fifth round rookie that I found while doing some of the fantasy draft research and seeing who's behind Saquon if he does go into a holdout. And I was watching his film. This is another feeling like last year. Who was the kid out of the Saints last year that I was trying to crown? I forget his name already. Tony Jones Jr. Kind of a similar situation, except for this guy isn't a massive person. This guy's a small person. Eric Gray out of Oklahoma, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
He's third on the depth chart. He's behind Matt Breida, but he does a little bit more work in the receiving game than I think Breida would do. And if Breida isn't working out, it may give him a chance in this offense. He's a little bit more dynamic like Saquon is than Breida. Obviously, I'm not saying he's anything like Saquon, but could get in there. He could get in there, have a chance.
Okay. Barkley means more to the Giants than a lot of running backs mean to their team. I would say Barkley is like the Derrick Henry to his team. Like Derrick Henry, if you take Derrick Henry off the Titans, they crumble and fall. You take Barkley off this team, I think the Giants fall a lot farther than you think. Everybody, I don't know why they paid Daniel Jones as much as they paid Daniel Jones. That was the big question mark a couple months ago, is why they went with Daniel Jones with the franchise tag over Barkley when they could have just waited, because nobody would have paid Daniel Jones that much on the open market, right? So I think they messed up a couple months ago on the why going and sign Daniel Jones and giving him that big deal over Barkley. They should have done it the other way around. Barkley, okay, so I heard or I read that they've already offered him $13 million a season, $26 million the first 2 seasons, and he turned that down. He wants $16 million a year. Barkley, get the fuck out of here. You're not getting that. No running back's getting that anymore. No, there's two guys that are making that much, and they won't even Henry, and then Kamara's contract. If you look at his, is ridiculous. It's like at one point he's gonna make like $20 million. He won't see that. He'll get cut before that. So if you think you're gonna get that much money, you're crazy. $13 million for a running back, I'm taking that all damn day. Now maybe if you could work it out where it's a 3-year deal and you're getting a little bit more up front, okay. But I think he has to be a little bit more realistic. These running backs, in their head, they think that, oh, I got to set the market. I got to set the market. Well, you're not going to do shit. You're not going to set the market because nobody's going to give you the money, and you're going to end up like Le'Veon Bell, and you're going to sit out a whole damn year for no damn reason, and all you're going to do is hurt yourself and lose another year of your career that you could have been making more money.
That's the frustrating part about this is it's almost like a hostage situation. Because if you hold out, it's not going to help your career. There's no way that it's going to be good for you. You're more likely to eventually see the money if you just keep producing and hope that someone's willing to give it to you eventually. But if teams just take a stand and say, no, we're not going to pay running backs, that position is not going to get paid unless you're Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey. Then what are the running backs going to do? By the time they reach free agency, if they get tagged, they're already out of their prime in the eyes of these franchises. So it's kind of a situation where it's a lose-lose for the running backs. They need to change it in some way where these guys come out of their rookie contract earlier than other positions, but it's very hard, obviously, and it would probably take a lot of figuring out between the NFLPA and the league.
So off the top of my head, the last 3 running backs that held out, Le'Veon Bell, didn't work out for him. He sat out a whole season, came back, had to play for Adam Gase, and took less money than what the Steelers were offering him. Melvin Gordon, that didn't work out for him well, right? He actually had to leave his team, went to Denver. And the other one was Ezekiel Elliott, got paid, but now shitty, and the team is hurting for it. So, I mean, it's not a great spot to put these running backs in. But you're right, Mike. The NFL needs to find a way to pay the running back position earlier in their career than anybody else.
So here's the thing: we're acting like I'll be a hostage for $10 million. Sign me up for that. Like I don't like using that as an analogy. I think what's happening is we're seeing a shift in where the game is going, and that's just where the money's going to follow. Like that is the unfortunate part about wanting to throw the football all over and who's winning and who's driving and who's the face of the organization, because it's not like quarterback contracts. There never seems to be a ceiling. We're going to see what Burrow and Herbert and these guys are going to get. We just saw what Jalen Hurts did after one season. Like, what if that's a flash in the pan? The Eagles just did this not too long ago with Carson Wentz, where they paid him, and then 24 months later, they're ready to move on. So, like, all this running back thing is not going to be solved by one guy making any sort of a stance. And Saquon Barkley seems too smart to sit out and pass up $10 million. Like, I think he will be there. He will play football. He might not play through every single injury, especially if it's close, but like Saquon will be there week 1, I believe, for the Giants.
How's he going to feed his kids with $10 million, Tony? How are you going to feed your kids with $10 million?
I will put together a very strict budget on how to scrape by the nickel and dime all the way through one calendar year, and then he can just repeat.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind the scale and stay humble a little bit here, that it is still, franchise tag is $10 million. So we're talking about on the scale of the rest of the league, the running back situations have been interesting to say the least. But that's what I'm talking about, Tony. Like, Jalen Hurts did what he did last year. He's going to be the face of the franchise. He did everything that the Eagles need. I know the Giants didn't go to the Super Bowl, but I feel like Saquon is that for them. I feel like he's the face of their franchise. I feel like they don't win without him. I feel like he is the biggest contributor to their success or failure if he struggles.
So it's almost like
get a contract.
We would like the way that, like, as fans or whoever, we'd like to be fair, is that there's just a pool of money. There's $230 million. And then based on your production for that year, you get to pull like how much you contribute to whatever it is. But that's just not how it works. Like, Travis Kelce is essentially a top 3 receiver in the NFL. And he's paid like a tight end because that's his position by name. The last time he blocked somebody, Harrison was still in high school. He wasn't even talking about being a sports statistician. Like Travis Kelce hasn't put his hand in the dirt in 4 years. Like we're not talking rationally with like how it should work. It's how it does work. It's the reality.
But what if they told Travis Kelce at age 26 and a half, he's done and you're not getting another deal? Like, but Travis Kelce's still a talent that he is and still producing at the level he's producing.
Yeah, no, it sucks that's what it is. It's the same thing for linebackers on the other side. Like, we're going to see Shaquille Leonard hopefully be healthy this year. But, like, his career could be over just because of the violent nature of playing a middle backer position. Like, some bodies are meant for it to stay healthy. RG3 didn't get to play as long as Brett Favre did. Like, it's just like some people are meant for a beating and some people aren't.
Yeah, I just still think like if they moved it up where running backs are hitting 1 year earlier, just 1 year earlier, teams will be willing to pay them at the market value just a year earlier, just for that extra season of production. And that's what's kind of messed up to me is that like a quarterback or receiver or tight end or almost any position but linebacker and running back, their job security is usually locked in ahead of their production. Running backs have to produce like animals and no security locked in post-year production.
So this is the argument I've made for a long time, that running backs need to bargain even in their own thing. The problem now is that teams are so non-reliant on that position. They basically just run to keep the defense honest. So they would be fine taking scabs who are willing to come in and play for that amount of money. Like, you can't, they don't have any bargaining tool. What, are they going to go to the XFL? Like, all the marquee guys are just going to wrap up and go over to another league and take significantly less money and dominate less substantial. Like, the owners are not going to give up shit to these guys.
That would be a crazy ass fantasy football season where like all the RB1s just decided together to go and all the XFL RBs go to the NFL.
They all have to hold out and try something next year. I think that is really what needs to happen. Every running back, whether you're under contract or not, they need to say like, hey, I know that Bijan Robinson is going to be going into his second year, but he also needs to not report to camp. And they need to have like a day without running backs in the NFL or something where no running backs show up to camp and they make a statement. But even that is not going to work.
It probably wouldn't even work. That would definitely put it on the map though. Like if they did something like that.
Yeah, I want to know how to fix it. How to get running backs paid earlier in their career, because you're just opening the door for everybody to get paid, and it has to be that one position. But like in the case of Barkley and now Josh Jacobs, these aren't guys that just run the ball. They're big guys in the passing game as well, which is the NFL is going to. I think they both had over 50 receptions last year, right? And they're both like that hybrid kind of mixture where, hey, I'm not just your average running back where I can go out there and catch a damn ball too, and you can move me around. So that's the issue that we're having with the money too. But at the end of the day, $10 million is a lot of money.
Joe, Austin Eckler set the franchise record for the Chargers last year in receptions. And they were like, yeah, you can go seek a trade somewhere else. It's whatever is the name is on your position. They don't give a shit. Did you guys notice that Antonio Gibson right now is going, hey, I haven't even had a chance to play in my real position. I'm actually a wide receiver. And why is he doing that? Because his second contract will be much better if he starts changing the narrative on what he is. He knows he's not going to get paid as a running back. He's trying to say, hey, I played college receiver. I am a receiver. And he's trying to make that transition now in this offense. Plus, he's also got a very crowded backfield. So he's saying, hey, I'm a wide receiver. So that because he wants to get paid as a wide receiver. It's smart.
Absolutely. It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah. Want to add anything else here for the Josh Jacobs? It's the same situation as Saquon, where the Raiders aren't as doomed because they do have other star players on the field to go to, like Devontae Adams. Jacoby Myers was a sneaky pickup, but without that play action, without that run game, and Jimmy Garoppolo and Josh McDaniels led offense, I think you're pretty much doomed, Joe.
I think the Raiders are not in the same situation as the Giants, but I think Josh Jacobs is in a better situation than Barkley, because Josh Jacobs has never had that big injury. Josh Jacobs didn't take a pounding in college. He wasn't the main guy in college. He didn't get his body is a little bit more healthier. But I don't think Josh Jacobs, like Tony said about Barkley, I don't think Josh Jacobs is dumb enough to walk away from a franchise contract anyways, especially looking at his history and his past, knowing his story growing up. The guy knows $10 million is a lot of money. I personally believe, and I've been out there saying it, I think the Raiders and Josh Jacobs make a deal by Monday. I don't know how good of a deal it's going to be, but I think they make a deal by Monday. I don't have anything to go off of that. It's just my personal belief. And Mike, you know how we talked to Josh Jacobs at the Pro Bowl when he was there. He said, I want a good contract. I don't want to break the bank contract. So I don't think he's trying to go out there and get $16 million. But I think if the Raiders get close to $12 to $14 million a season, I think he'll be right there. But yeah, Josh Jacobs means a lot more to the Raiders than people think he does. I mean, just look at the passing game. But I think the Raiders also have to somehow find a way, even if they bring him back, to lower that rushing total. Like, there's no way he should be going over 330 carries a season. They need to get Zamir White involved more. They need to get other running backs more. So maybe that's what they're thinking too. Like, hey, I know you were the rushing king last year, but we need to bring it down just a little bit.
That's what I was about to say too. That's what you got the other back in there for. But who's with me in, for fantasy purposes, curving around Zamir White and going straight to Brendan Bolden? Who's with me?
I hate Brendan Bolden. I don't know what it is. I don't like Brendan Bolden.
Somebody? Anybody?
Nobody.
I think McDaniel likes him because he's following him around like a little buddy.
But that's more to do with his leadership, the fact that he knows the Patriot way, that he's a special teamer. Like, he's a core guy to what McDaniels is trying to establish there.
But his days as a running back, Brandon Bolden, I don't know if you saw him run a couple times last year, Mike. Oh my God.
I didn't see anything. I just know that this guy's just always around Patriots coaches at all times.
He caught a touchdown against the Chargers in week 1. I remember sitting in the zone in front of me. I was like, come on, Van Noy, what are you doing?
But yeah, what Tony said about him is what everybody says. When every time I bring up Brandon Bolden, people are like, he's a great special teamer. He's a great special teamer. Yeah, but he's taking up a room in the running back spot, in the running back position where we could have another playmaker in there.
Sonny Michel. For you guys.
So just on the Josh Jacobs situation, I don't think he's passing up $10 million either, but I think it's more likely that he makes it more difficult if he doesn't get a contract. Like, I think he'll be bitter because why would he be in a rush to come back to this team? No offense, Joe, but why would he be in a rush to there wasn't optimism last year and there hasn't been a lot of optimism this year for the team.
Sounds like straight hate right there.
That was a great take.
Somebody get Tony an invitation to the Play I Hate About.
Tony, when you stone cold the entire live and you just give us a good, you force a good 3 seconds of silence, you got him.
Well, all the Raiders fans just left. They all just took off.
See you guys later.
I just saw all the viewership just go down.
Yep.
They're like, you know what?
Have a good time. Anyways,
we're gonna treat the show like the Chargers. How's there? What's up, Zero? Zero's in the house. You guys were talking about him earlier.
Zero, you're late. You're late, Zero.
You're late.
You're late. Zero, help us by liking the stream. Help us by liking the stream, Zero, and everyone else tuned in right now. Tony, we're gonna say one more thing about Jacobs before we go.
No, I just wanted you guys to be honest about what you're rushing back to. Like, at least with the Giants, it's like, can we build on the success we had last year? With this Raiders team, it's like, we drafted somebody in the first round. We're unsure about his health. We signed a quarterback. We're unsure about his health. We're unsure about the direction of this part. Like, there's just a lot of questions with the Raiders. Like, why is he rushing back to waste a year when he just had 300 and some carries? That's all I'm saying.
And like 2,000 yards. No biggie. Just another
He had a great season. I think he's a fantastic football player.
It was fun to watch, especially when they only won 6 games.
Yeah, they should backload the contract with all the money on the back end and then give him the ball 400 times this year, and I think that'll work out for him.
Then they're completely screwed in 2 years. I love that. Anyways, we'll stop this. We'll talk about a topic that I'm sure Raiders fans would love to talk about instead. The New Orleans Saints. So Alvin Kamara apparently is pleading guilty to a lesser charge than he was originally facing no contest.
I heard it was no contest.
Okay, no contest. He's avoiding jail time, which is a smart move in this situation because it seems like this whole thing was caught on camera and pretty clear that he did it and he committed the crime. Nothing's really changed Fantasy-wise for him, I don't know, but I think this could, if he was going to get a suspension, shorten it just a little bit because the outcome does matter to the NFL when it comes to the PR and the look of what happened. But Tony, are you more or less in on Alvin Kamara hearing this news that he's not going to be going to jail at least?
Oh, I'm definitely going to draft him for fantasy purposes, right? Like, it's kind of like that's sort of where I draw my line with players, like off the field activity, like what they do. He got into a drunken fight and beat the crap out of somebody. It's like, I don't get it. Like, I wouldn't do it personally, but I'll still draft him, especially if he's going to go after rounds 4 or 5. And let's say the suspension is 4 games, right? Or like when you're drafting, the suspension isn't even out. You're still going to have Kamara on there, and whenever he comes back, he'll be tradable or whatever. He's been one of the most fun, exciting players we've had in football, and I just hope that he's out there for however much time left he has, in his NFL career.
I'll never forget him in those Christmas shoes, counting up the touchdowns in that 6-touchdown game in the end zone.
Yeah,
that's a core memory for me, Joe. What do you think about Alvin Kamara?
Well, in all the mock drafts that we've been doing and I've been doing lately, you see him going later and later. He's going as a 29th running back off the board in average ADP right now, 29. So, of course, I'm going to draft him when we get later in the rounds and we get into that 4th or 5th round and he's still sitting there. I'm going to be like, yes, sir, give it to me. I know, like, I'm with Tony. I think it's going to be anywhere between a 4-game, 6-game suspension, according to all the other stuff that we've seen in the NFL and the way that they suspend people. So I think anywhere between 4 and 6. But that name value right there alone, Tony, you're going to draft your team knowing that he's not going to be there or knowing that there's possibility that he's going to be off. But when he comes back, somebody's going to be hurting. Somebody's going to be 2 and 4, 1 and 5, and they're going to be hurting in fantasy, and they're going to want to make a trade. And you go, hey, guess who I got? Guess who's coming back week 7 to help your fantasy team? And you make that big trade, and you trade him for something else that's going to help your team. I think just for name value, and I don't know, because I'm always looking to the future, and I love trading in fantasy football. You guys know that. And I'm a big if you're in my fantasy football league, I'm always looking to trade every single day. So I'm looking for those guys with name value that I could trade later on in the season for a young guy that's making his name. But yeah, if you can get a 29 off the board, I don't know where that exactly is, but that's like 3rd, 4th, 5th round right there, right? For running back. There's no reason why you don't take him.
Yeah, that late is insane. I didn't know he was RB29. I know it was that far down the board, but that's nuts for Alvin Kamara. I'm sure that's going to come up as we get closer to our drafts. It's probably going to come up a ton, actually. If it comes up too much, I'll actually be shifting my opinion on him. But at this spot, I'm down to draft AK-41. I just think they brought in Jamal Williams for a reason. Whether AK is going to play or he's not going to play, even if AK is there, makes his return, Jamal Williams is still healthy. I think Williams is in there to work. I think Williams is in there to take some goal line work. I think Williams is in there to come in on some passing downs where they want a really good pass protector in there. Not that Alvin Kamara is a terrible one. I'm thinking more so Williams versus Kendre Miller in these situations. If Alvin Kamara is out, Williams is there to put in some work. I don't think Williams is personally going to be a huge fantasy guy either again this year. 20 touchdowns, that's going to be really hard to replicate in the style that he did. But I do think that he was brought in not to just watch the game, not to just, take the back seat to a rookie.
But that's the thing is, if you do draft, like his draft position will move up into the middle of 3rd to the beginning of the 3rd round, right? It'll move up somewhere in between there, 3rd and 4th round, which is fine. You can come back on the 9th round and get Jamal Williams or Kendre Miller because nobody's going to draft those guys super early knowing that they're only going to get no Alvin Kamara for 4 games. I mean, you might have somebody who tries to be tricky like that in your league, but you'll be able to get one of those guys who you can, if you need to, put in a flex spot in the first few weeks while Kamara's out. So, yeah, good luck. Hopefully
there
that
it is.
But Tony's still taking Alexander Madison as his number 1 running back in fantasy this year.
Right.
Number 1 overall.
1.01.
Alexander Madison. Anyways, that's the running backs, y'all. We talked Joe Mix, we talked Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara. If you guys want to listen to that again, just rewind it and check it out. Now we're going to get into our list. Every time we get on the Fantasy Football Speakeasy, we give you guys a nice little fantasy football list to go off of. Write it down. Keep it on the side. Keep it in your notes for draft day when the day comes. But we're doing our top 5 players that we like after round 7. Basically, our top 5 sleepers. As of today, this could change. We may do another episode like this. Are both of you guys ready? Who wants to go first on this one?
We're going to give the whole list or what?
Yeah, just go ahead and give the whole list. Yeah, give the whole list. We're already 30 minutes in.
Okay, sweet. I'll go first. All right, so I just went. Fuck it, who cares? Dak.
Yeah.
At 100. I know that Mike McCarthy says we want to run, we want to do things our way, we want to score less points. I don't believe that'll be the case. I think the defense can be really good, a lot of turnovers, and now that they have 2, I think one potentially top 5 receiver, like CD could make that jump and really solidify himself this year, and then Brandon Cooks. So I like Dak. He's going 100 average draft position, like the 100th player. You get him in like the 9th round or whatever that is. Like that's great for me. I would take that all day. A running back, Brian Robinson Jr., 118 ADP. That's a guy right there. Eric Bieniemy, I think, and I've even heard this now from like Travis Kelce and a couple other people, like he loves to run the football and design runs, and he's a former running back. I think that there's a real opportunity for him to have a great season with Sam Howell, and Howell's actually a little more mobile than we like to remember. George Pickens, ADP 75. I think Pickens has a chance to emerge into the top 12. Like he's just so good and athletic. Like on 80 targets or whatever last year, caught 52 balls, 800 yards. If he gets 140, are we talking 90 catches and 1,500 yards, like 7-8 touchdowns? Like I think he's just too good to not try and feed him the football, you know? And like even Kenny Pickett on a recent podcast said that they've expanded his route tree in different ways to get him. Like he's got new packages that are going to be on display this year. My stack, putting in Brandon Cooks in here. Every year, we just let this guy slide down the board, and he just goes out and puts up numbers for you. Brandon Cooks is 83rd ADP. That's end of the 7th round. 8th round, you can get Brandon Cooks. I'll take that all day. And my tight end, I've said this forever and ever and ever, and he'll probably be on a lot of my teams this year. Any team I don't get Travis Kelce, it'll be Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson is going essentially undrafted, 171, and he's in a spot to really have a monster season, I think, to really join that level of tight ends where you're like kind of Goddard, Hawkinson, that area. Like I don't think we don't need to go crazy to Andrews and Kelce and Kittle, but somewhere in that second tier, I can see Juwan Johnson having that Darren Waller breakout type season from a few years ago in Oakland.
With Derek Carr. Woo! Out of Vegas, finally. Anyways, Joe, your top 5 sleepers. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to? The floor is yours.
Well, I'll be okay. Let me be a homer first, and I'll go Jacoby Myers because he's going a little lower in a lot of drafts this year. If I want to say, I think he's going like 112 overall, which is running wide receiver 47 for Jacoby Myers. So I think that's a great value pick later on in the draft, just because the Raiders might have to be passing the ball a lot if Josh Jacobs ain't there, right? Quarterback, I like Jared Goff. Jared Goff is going – his ADP is 124, quarterback 16. That's a passing offense, right? They're going to pass all damn day. They brought in Gibbs so they can they can pass the ball more. Jared Goff and that Detroit offense was top offense last year. Why aren't they going to continue it again this year? And you can wait on a quarterback and get Jared Goff later on. I like it. Here's a guy I don't think a lot of people have been talking about. He's his ADP right now is 163, and he's the 55th running back to be drafted in the league or in fantasy football. Michael Carter of the New York Jets. Are we 100% sure that Breece Hall's coming back from his injury and going to be the same Breece Hall, yeah, we think that he could be when healthy. Breece Hall is the man, and he changed that team up. But who's going to run the ball at the beginning of the season? I think it's going to be Michael Carter, and Michael Carter has shown that he can be a great running back in this league, and he's put up good fantasy points before. So I think if I can, in the late rounds, I'm going to take a shot at somebody like Michael Carter that can help me throughout the first couple weeks, maybe have a big game with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, and then trade him. Anything that you could do to get trade value and help your team later on in the season. The other one is number 108 in fantasy, Dalton Schultz, the tight end number 11. Why not go with that Houston offense? A lot of people are asking questions about Houston. I think Houston is going to be a pretty damn good team this year. I'm not going to say they're going to be a top team in the AFC, but they're going to be a team that is going to be very competitive and in a lot of games, and I think they're going to score some points. So why not go after a tight end like that later in the round? And then if I had to throw one more out there, I mean, I would stay with Jacksonville, and I think Trevor Lawrence has showed that he could throw around. So you got Calvin Ridley already, right? You got Christian Kirk. Why not go back with Zay Jones? Zay Jones proved that he could do a little bit in that offense, in Jacksonville's offense. Trevor Lawrence moving up in his rankings, and they're going to throw the ball a little bit more. And so Zay Jones proved to be a good number 3 wide receiver and find the end zone last year. But like I'm saying, these are just guys that we're talking about like late in the round. These aren't guys that you want to build your fantasy around. These are guys that you just want to be able to plug and play and hopefully have a big game and win you a couple weeks left and right. But there's only one other guy that I would want, but I can't get to him because the picture's not here, and that's Daniel Bellinger. But he's in our other. I got the background to get to it.
Oh yeah, you don't want to switch the background. I like that Zay Jones take. I really feel like when Ridley comes back, he's going to take a lot off of Christian Kirk's plate, but Zay Jones's role is still going to be exactly the same. And that role saw more than 100 targets last year. No, or I think it might have been like 84 or something like that. It was close to 100 targets last year. He's going at the end of round 12. This is a free pick. I mean, you don't have to spend anything on Zay Jones, and I still think, and call me crazy, I think Zay Jones will finish as a better fantasy producer than Christian Kirk this year. I really do. I think Christian Kirk is going to slide into the slot. He's going to be a pure slot receiver, and the outside receivers, the 2 X's for Trevor Lawrence, is going to be Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones.
That makes me like Christian Kirk more.
Just because I said it?
No, because I like him playing full-time in the slot.
Ridley, well, there's like a trend going on right now that no slot receiver has finished in the top 15 in fantasy production in X amount of time. I call that bullshit because Cooper Kupp is a slot receiver. But
and also
no one is purely going out of the slot and producing high numbers consistently out of in fantasy football right now.
Yeah, well, so what was it? Edelman?
Yeah.
Renfro had a good year. What, like 3 years ago? He was top 20-ish. He was
top 20. He was better than Hunter Renfro the year before, yes, for that season.
He was better than Jefferson does a lot of work out of the slot.
He does, yes. That's why I say that there is some holes in that theory, but the claim is that if you change to slot receiver and you're not going to be getting anything outside anymore, you're going to see your production and opportunity go down a lot.
I guess.
And I don't think because Zay Jones could play the slot too. Zay Jones could play the slot. It could be Zay
all
Jones.
3 of them can. Calvin Ridley lined up there a bunch too when he was I think rookie year in Atlanta. I just really love the potential for Jones, and that is crazy that he's going so late. In that offense that I think is going to put up 40 passing touchdowns this year. All right. So there's a couple on here that you guys already said that I have. So I'll go ahead and say them first. Brandon Cooks is on my list as well, Tony. I think that Dallas has been desperate for a wide receiver too since forever. Like they've just been trying everybody that they can get in there when Michael Gallup's been hurt, when Michael Gallup's been in. No one's been able to save them. And on top of it all, I feel like Dalton Schultz was Dak's security blanket. CeeDee Lamb's his big play, is down the field, his number 1 guy. But that security blanket in a pinch when you need, those 6 yards and mid-play, the play breaks down. He was going to Dalton Schultz. I think that'll be Brandon Cooks this year. And then someone else that made my list was Dalton Schultz. So that's fun too. He sneakily finished in the top 10 last year through
battling that knee injury that had him in and out of the lineup all year. I think he missed 3 games, but none were consecutive. So it was throughout the year, same injury. So he's playing through this injury, still finished in the top 10 amongst tight ends. I don't know if this Houston team is going to be as good as Joe's saying. I just think that they're super young, but I do agree with the take that they're going to be competitive. And in situations where they do have to throw back into games, it's not going to be a complete shit show where they just get blown out like they were in previous years. So those 2 guys made my list. My honorable mention was Tribal Chief Tua. Now that Tua's got an arm sleeve and he's taking some jiu-jitsu classes, I don't know. It's just something that makes me think Tua's going to stay healthy. And if Tua stays healthy in this offense, he's going to put up fantasy points. I don't know where he was last year before the first injury, but I believe he was putting up 25 points every single week after week after week, just because of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. He's going at 90th right now, 7.06. So right there in your 7th round window that we were talking about. I also have on my list here, well, the first member of my actual list, other than Brandon Cooks and Dalton Schultz, is Rachaad White. Not that I think Rachaad White had a great rookie year last year. I just think more so the Bucs showed that they want him out there on the field. They want him to play. Other than Leonard Fournette, he was the only guy that was really getting reps in this offense. And Lenny just left 200 touches up for grabs in the offense before you factor in the fact that they're going from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield, which spikes those touches up even more. I think Rachaad White could be a guy that sees a lot of volume this year. And even if he doesn't produce, a higher yard per carry than he did last year, which is obviously what the Bucs want from him, he still could be a player that's getting drafted at 85th right now that you could target to be a flex play week in, week out. And then also, skipping over Cooks and Schultz, who are 4 and 3 for me, Zay Flowers is making my list. I think that the Baltimore offense is sneaky this year for the receivers in the fact that I don't believe in OBJ to take the volume work. And Rashad Bateman seems like a sideline stretcher. Not that I think that Rashad Bateman can't do more. That just seems like the role he's played so far for Baltimore and even in Minnesota a little bit. Zay Flowers, the most complete receiver in the offense, the guy that can play the slot and play outside, the guy that can be the motion man in the offense. I think that Mark Andrews is still the alpha when it comes to receiving, but Zay Flowers could be a sneaky pick in round 11 right now, or 10.12. So 1 pick from round 11. My number 1 sleeper this year, and I almost don't want to tell anybody, is Isaiah Hodgins. Isaiah Hodgins, wide receiver of the New York Giants. Everyone is up on Wan'Dale Robinson's junk. Guys, come on. Isaiah Hodgins is a much more complete receiver. He's a guy that can do it all. He's got the size. He was the guy last year for Daniel Jones. In the playoffs, he saw 10 targets in their victory to advance to the next round. They believe in Isaiah Hodgins. They do. And there's no one else out there to try and take anything off of his plate that they went out there and got in the offseason. I think that he's going to finish inside. I think he's going to finish inside the top 15. That's a hot take. I think he's going to finish inside the top 20. For the last 6 weeks of the season last year, where he was kind of like getting a little bit more featured in the offense and the playoffs, he was wide receiver 13. I mean,
Tony,
cut his mic, Joe. Cut his mic.
did you hear what he said? Tony, I don't know if you understood what Mike was saying in this whole little rant that he just went on.
Also, he's undrafted player.
He just said that OBJ ain't nothing anymore.
He did. Mike, I did hear him.
The one guy who loves OBJ.
Was that the quote? That was the quote. It wasn't, I don't think OBJ can handle the high volume work. It was, I think he's, what?
I was worried. Hang on. I was worried about his knee because he jumped off that bandwagon so fast. Like I was like, Mike, shit, you're still in rehab. Like you can't be that. You can't be jumping off bandwagons that fast. But yeah, I heard him.
Just like OBJ, I don't even need a knee. Just like OBJ, I don't even need a knee.
That's all I took out of the whole thing. I was like, Mike just said OBJ is nothing anymore.
No, what's worse than that is like you're giving all this love to Isaiah Hodgins. It's because it's what they had to work with last year. They have so many resources invested in this wide receiving core with a quarterback that you don't even like, and you're saying top 15 for Hodgins. Like Hodgins was there because the top 4 guys had to get injured for him to have his opportunity. Like they still have investments in Wan'Dale Robinson. They just drafted Jalen Hyatt. Sterling Shepard's still a veteran there. Like They re-signed Darius Slayton. They have like 7 or 8 guys. I cannot see him being top 15. I love the take, and if it's correct, this will be a victory for you, a massive, massive victory.
If you go to NewYorkGiants.com right now, go to their depth chart. All of those guys are healthy. All of those guys listed below Isaiah Hodgins on the depth chart today.
I just don't see it. I think he's a better football player than a fantasy.
Also, only one of those guys last year weren't there for the stretch where Isaiah Hodgins was at his best.
So it has Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, and Hodges listed as their 3 starting wide receivers right now.
Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
There's not much there.
There's not much there. I love to see the underdog to take off.
I'm here for it. I think that he's a really good receiver too. I think he gives me like a little bit of Mike Evans vibe. He's not quite as big, not quite as talented, but gives me that vibe of a high security guy. I'm not high on Danny Dimes, but he was getting the ball out to him. Like I said, in the last 6 weeks, he had, I think 4 of the 6 weeks, he put up more than 18 points.
I think you're safely going to have Isaiah Hodgins on every team you want him on, Mike.
He is undrafted.
Yeah,
he is undrafted.
In our league, Mike, we can just give him to you. You can just take him.
Matter of fact, like, he's just yours. You can have him.
Hey, what about one guy that nobody mentioned, Tony? And I'm surprised you didn't mention him because I thought you've been high on him this year. Is KJ Osborne?
Okay, no, I'm not going that way because I would have went Jordan Addison before that. Jordan Addison just as like a really feels like a safe floor guy towards the end of the season. Like he's gonna get 5 or 6 really easy targets. I think it'll be a bit of a slow start, but I can see him working into 65 yards and 4 or 5 catches. I left Jacoby Myers off my list because I wanted Joe to have him. I wanted Joe to be able to have that Raiders time to shine, but that was the Raider who was on my list. I put Brandon Cooks on instead. And then the other guy that I wanted to give a shout out to was Chigo Conquo, the tight end for the Titans. He's a playmaker. He's massive, and he's going.
Yeah, I think you've been
14th round.
You mentioned him a lot this season, so if you don't get him on a lot of your teams, Tony,
I got him on my dynasty team. Better than Kyle Pitts has been on that dynasty team for crying out loud. Mike, go ahead. Air your grievances. I
don't have any. I'll die on my Isaiah Hodgins mountain alone.
It's not even just that. It's the way you buried your guy OBJ.
It's just nuts that we just said that Darius Slayton is going to hold Hodgins back, but Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, all these guys, KJ Osborne, the entire list of Vikings weapons aren't going to hold Jordan Addison back. Isaiah Hodgins is going to get 7.5 targets a game. Guaranteed. Lock it in.
Lock it in.
All right. I just think they're.
Oh, for Lockett. You're going with Tyler Lockett. Cool. Tyler Lockett.
Not Tyler Lockett. I'm out on Tyler Lockett.
Well, because you said the thing about the slot receiver thing, and then now you're telling me that you like Zay Flowers.
Yeah, but Zay Flowers isn't just playing slot receiver.
We know that for sure?
I mean, we don't know that for certain, but why would you draft a receiver in the first round and just put him in the slot?
Because they're the Ravens and they haven't drafted a good wide receiver in the history of their franchise?
But even when they draft bad wide receivers, they don't just throw them in the slot and just say good luck.
All right.
See, that's why I'm drafting Quentin Johnson late in the fantasy drafts.
I actually
Johnson, you said?
Rashad Bateman was close to making my list.
I like Rashad Bateman too. I like both of them just because there's a lot of opportunity and they're both going really late after round 10.
Yeah, so I think
going to be there.
The Ravens offense to me presents the biggest wild card because I don't know how serious they are about really throwing the ball as much as they've been talking about throwing the ball. Because you have Lamar Jackson, and you just paid him all this money. Why not get the best version you possibly can? And that might not be dropping back 30 times a game and throwing it all over the yard. But if it does work out and it does click, like there's a ton of talent and speed on this offense. That's why I really like J.K. Dobbins this year too. I just think that there has an opportunity for Mark Andrews, Dobbins, and one of these wide receivers to hit along with Lamar Jackson. and have a really potent offense.
It's going to be interesting because obviously they're still going to be more run heavy no matter what they say. But yeah, this is the best set of weapons out wide that we've seen Lamar line up with, I think, so far. Let's hope they can all stay healthy. Like, holy crap. The Ravens just fall apart each year. But yeah, that's our list, guys. Let us know what you think. Should we go over them again real quick before we close it off?
I don't know my list. I didn't write it down.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to. I just want to say one last thing about Mike, your list. My favorite thing on there was the Tua love. I really do think that is like he was on fire last year.
Yeah.
Before that second injury. So I think he's got a shot to be a top 8 fantasy QB.
I'm telling you, if you look right good and you feel good, you're gonna play good. And if Tua is actually coming out with a full sleeve and he's putting on a visor, he's going to play better. Guaranteed.
I'm with Fresh here. I don't know about Romeo Doubs, but I'm with that Christian Watson. I don't think I like the Green Bay wide receivers this year. I still like both of them, even without Aaron Rodgers. So I'm kind of with you, Fresh. And then we have a question right here by Zero. Can we all agree that North Dakota does not actually exist?
I mean, I've never been.
I cannot
confirm.
You know
anybody that's ever been to North Dakota?
Isn't that where Mount Rushmore is?
I mean, in the movies.
That's not where it is in real life.
I don't know.
Well, you all know that
it is.
They filmed the moon landing. They could just film Mount Rushmore somewhere.
Yeah.
Rose has been to Mount Rushmore, so I know one person that's been in North Dakota.
I think I drove through the bottom of South Dakota on my way to California. I think.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore is where?
I don't know. You have Google.
South Dakota.
So North Dakota could still be non-existent. There's a chance.
I don't know. I don't know. Personally, I don't know anybody I don't even know anybody that talks about going to North Dakota.
And on the moon landing, my personal theory is that the ship went to the moon and got to the moon, but never returned.
Okay.
And the U.S. covered it up by doctoring this fake film that never actually got back and got in some stunt doubles to play the astronauts.
Yeah, Tony.
That would be the role of a lifetime. I would have loved to have had that role.
Just to play an astronaut?
Yeah. Not to actually have to do any of the training or risk my life or anything. They're just like, we need you to pretend like you went to the moon. No problem. And I just get to live off the government for the rest of my life and just go to autograph signings with other people who love science. Sign me up.
Hey, have you guys, let's go off topic. Have you guys watched the Netflix series, The Quarterback, or started to watch it?
Yes.
I have not.
So I finished episode 1 last night. It's all right.
Spoilers, Tony.
Better.
Spoilers, Tony. I don't mean to ruin the whole thing for you, but Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl.
Does it get better? Does the series get better?
No, because they just keep. It's like 90% Mahomes and 10% the other two. I'm sick and tired of seeing this man. I'm sure everyone's appreciating it. I'm sure everyone's super happy to see all the injuries he plays through and how cute he is with his fucking dogs and all that shit. But I'm not interested. I want the documentary to focus on Kirk Cousins. I want to see some Kirk dancing at practice.
So from what I got from Kirk Cousins in just episode 1, that dude lives, breathes everything football. And I don't know if you saw that part where he's sitting at the fire with his family and he's still reminiscing about one pass that he missed KJ Osborne. And he's like, man, if I would have just hit that one, it would have changed the whole game. And like he's talking football the whole time. And then I liked the one part in episode 1 where Max Crosby was just punking Mahomes and he was actually getting he did what he wanted. He got in Mahomes' head for a little bit in the first half, and then Mahomes was like, no, I'm him, and he came back on him. But you saw that's what I thought the show was going to be more of. It was going to be more of like the inside stuff that we don't see on the field and a little bit of the outside. But it's like they're showing us the same shit that we've already seen. It's like, come on, I thought it was going to be better than this.
You know what I am realizing? The Minnesota O-line stinks worse than I thought it did.
And the defense is all a bunch of like 23-year-old kids.
Every time they show Kirk highlights, he's just getting murdered after the throw. Yeah,
No.
he's completing a lot of these passes, which is impressive. But it looks like he's going through like crash dummy testing every single play that they show on that documentary. It's like they're looking for those clips of Kirk getting helicoptered after the throw. And then I'm like,
have you not watched it?
This series so far has me sympathizing with the quarterbacks a little bit. Like, oh, I kind of see why they're starting to change the rules a little bit.
So
Have you not watched it, Tony?
No, the day before it came out, we've been using like a family member's password to Netflix, and then it came out and it was like, you have to connect your account through whatever, and I was like, huh, what am I doing? I haven't even thought, because I don't go on Netflix very often, so I just went on to go see if there was a trailer or anything. No go, nothing.
Well, they open up the whole series opens up with Kirk Cousins reading a book to his kids.
I saw that. I saw the trailer on McAfee.
And it talks about how he's so thankful for Tom Brady getting hurt, where they don't have to go after his feet anymore. But then, like Mike said, the whole time they show Kirk Cousins just taking a beating, just But
so they mixed in karma to the storyline. He basically talks about like, oh, thank you, Tom Brady, for tearing your ACL and PCL. And then karma just bitch slaps him for 58 minutes.
Then he gets hit 150 times the next season. Insanity.
This thing, Mike, if there was a NBA documentary called Dribble, and it was LeBron James, DeMar DeRozan, and like, I can't even
Zion.
give you. Not even Zion is still too popular. I'm trying to give you like
Marcus doesn't even get that.
Yeah, like RJ Barrett or something. Yeah. You'd be like, wait, why aren't they showing LeBron for 90 minutes? But because you hate Patrick Mahomes, like Patrick Mahomes is the most interesting person by far in this documentary. Like,
no. That's Kirk. This is Kirk. Because think about it. This whole season has been just Kirk this, Kirk that, Kirk everything. He has returned to Washington, the Kirk O'Chains thing. Kirk Cousins is basically the Phillip Rivers of Minnesota. And he gets barely any TV time at all. Also, why even have Mariota on the series?
Yeah, Mariota, they're not even showing him that much. He shouldn't even be on here. Kirk Cousins is catching my attention, Mike, like you said. Like, it's all Patrick Mahomes, then they cut the Cousins, and then there's like a minute of Mariota. But Kirk Cousins, like, he's seeing a shrink. He's going to go and seeing the team shrink after every game now just to talk football, just so he can get all this football talk out of his mind and stuff because nobody else is listening to him. I mean, Kirk Cousins is I've already liked Kirk Cousins. I'm just starting to like him even more.
Have you seen the scene where
I knew he was religious, but I didn't know they were that religious as well.
Have you seen
very religious?
Have you seen the scene where they're practicing the celebration and they're milking each other's udders?
No, I mean,
Vikings at practice. That was funny. Kirk Cousins is the one that's coming up with it. Like, why don't we try milking the cow? And sure enough, they actually started doing it.
I'm not doing any milking the cow celebrations.
Fingers like this, and the other guy pulls on them. That's how it goes. Yeah, like that. Anyways, we'll stop with this. Mariota deserves more love. All I know about Mariota is that he went to Oregon. That's all I know from this documentary.
And what would have been if Mariota would have started over Derek Carr?
Yeah, it would have went great.
As a baby, and then he gets benched. That's going to be in the documentary.
It's going to be in there for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you're tuned into the audio version of the pod, please come over to YouTube and subscribe so you can see our faces. If you like audio version of the pod better than YouTube and you're on YouTube, go to the audio version. We're on most platforms. MJT Football. If you're tuned in, also like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. My dog is sitting here just staring at me. I didn't even notice this whole time.
My dog's barking.
It's a good one or a crazy one?
Oh,
it's Luna. She wants to go play, so I'm gonna give her that. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Anything else before I hit the button? Oh wait, the button's in a different. Oh no.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't know where the button's at.
End it. Put me out of my misery, Mike.
Oh, and